Hey everyone, today we are routing Cat from HackTheBox, rated easy. Before we begin, I would like to apologise if I sound sick. I have COVID, lucky me. So let's begin. So I've run Ruscan, which runs Nmap, and I've attached the flags here, PN for Disable Host Discovery. This is common in HackTheBox where some of the boxes just don't want to respond. SC for default scripts. This will basically run the default Nmap scripts on the machine, such as say FTP Anonymous or FTP Bounce or anything like that really. SV for enumerate versions. This is helpful in case there's a certain version that's vulnerable to some form of CV exploit, etc. And then ON, which basically just outputs the output to a file. We can see here there are 3 ports open, 21 for FTP, 22 for SSH, and 80 for HTTP. Now, as soon as I see a web port, what I will go ahead and do is I'll go ahead and run automated scripting. So here I have GoBuster, which is a directory enumeration tool. I've just attached a few directories to it, and I basically just background those for speed and also so I can kind of just run them in the background. Finally, I run a subdomain enumeration script on here, which will basically just check for any subdomains. It just covers all areas really. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on there. I'm going to go ahead and run whatweb. This will basically just give me information about the technologies on there of the system, of the web app. It'll kind of give me an idea as to what I'm dealing with. Maybe it will tell me if it's Ubuntu or not, or maybe it will just tell me like if it's using PHP. So here we have GoBuster has given a first hit back on data. I'm going to go ahead and check out the web app myself. So here we have the web app. If I go ahead and hit refresh on here, Burp will start populating with just the basic stuff here. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead into my dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and create a new scan. I'm going to go into crawl, and then just tell it to scroll cap.htb. If I could spell cap.htb. Okay. That will now start passively crawling. This basically will just look for any links in the page and follow them. We can see here on our end that we have a few different links on the page, capture, IP, and netstat. I'm going to go ahead and click them myself. I'm going to go ahead and click here. It's taking a second. Now it's worth noting in the box I did it originally, this would redirect to data/some ID. In this case, it isn't for some reason. However, that's not a problem because Burp will pull that out anyway. So here, what's happening is we're going to capture and we're getting a redirect in the response, which is redirecting us to data and then some integer. I don't know why it's being weird in this case, but no worries. Burp is kind of just telling us what's happening, but obviously my browser is being it's not quite agreeing with it. So I'm going to go ahead and check out data. I can see that when I go to 5 and 9, I get a redirect back to the root. That to me seems suspicious. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and add it to intruder. I'm going to go ahead and set the position to the integer ID above data. Go ahead and into my payloads. I'm going to go ahead and find numbers. I'm going to go from -100 to 100 with a step of 1. This will basically just cover the negative and positive spectrum of IDs. It's quite common in applications where you're using IDs to refer to resources, where there will be a case where the actual page will give different data based on the ID you give it. So, for example, it could be like the ID of 14,000 might give some actual different data. So in my case, 0 was the answer. So what I'm going to go ahead now is I'm going to go ahead into the request, copy, request in browser, copy the burp URL, pop that into here, paste that there, let it load. And we can see here there's some kind of PCAP analysis stuff going on. Not really much to click in here. I'm going to go ahead and hit download just to see what happens. Turns out it's opening a PCAP file. So what this is doing is this is downloading a PCAP file. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. We can go ahead and see here that it's open in Wireshark. Wireshark is a packet analysis tool. It comes pre-installed in Kali, which is really nice. What I can see here is some HTTP traffic. You can see here by the protocol. Let's go down some more. There's some FTP traffic. And that tends to be it. So what I'm going to go ahead now is I'm going to go ahead and right-click one of the FTP traffic examples, follow TCP stream, and we can see here there's an FTP communication. Now, due to the way that FTP is put together, this version of HTTP is plaintext, so we can actually look at the contents of the request being made in the packet. We can see here that they've authenticated using the name Nathan and the password bucket hat for me. I'm going to go ahead and take this information and SSH. Now you may say, oh, why don't you just FTP? Well, it turns out this person has already listed the directory. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to go ahead and try and SSH. I'm going to go ahead and just close all of these so it's easier to read for you guys. Cool. I'm going to go ahead into here. I'm going to go ahead and SSH into Nathan. Go ahead and paste password. And now we're logged in as Nathan. Sweet. So the first thing I tend to do whenever I get access to a machine is run enumeration scripts. This will basically take a few minutes, and it makes sense to do it first, so you can come back to it when you've done your manual enumeration. I have here a script which will basically just print out some basic commands based on the current files in the directory. In my case, I have 2 Linux enumeration scripts in there. I'm going to go ahead and copy these. I'm going to go ahead and paste them in here. This will now drop them into my local directory within temp, within the box I SSH into, and it will also run them and then output it to a file. This way I can basically carry on and do my manual enumeration while the scripts are running, and also just for the sake of ease I can refer back to them later. This will take a second while it's downloading. While that's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and check out. I'm going to go ahead and check out payloads, all the things. bit of a word jumble there, and basically just follow their checklist. It's very in depth and there's a lot to it. And to be honest, I'm not going to go ahead and show everything because there's quite a few bits before the actual Priv Esc solution gets there. But I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and basically just do the obvious things that I would do even when I wasn't following the checklist. So, for example, looking for sensitive files, looking at cron jobs, looking at suid, that kind of thing. For example, just doing simply running this will tell us about sudo. Running this will basically print out all of the suid files. So I'll go ahead and show you that now this is downloaded, hopefully. Go ahead and paste that. And this will basically just give us a list of all the suid files. The reason you'd want to know these in the first place is because suid files basically will run as the user that they are set as. So in most cases root, and in this case daemon, and the rest are root. So when we run, say, password, what we're actually doing is we're actually invoking it as root. But due to the way that password's put together, it's not vulnerable in the sense that we can escape it and execute any commands or escape to a root shell. So it's fairly okay. However, there will be cases in other machines where indeed there is a suid binary or bash file or anything like that actually is vulnerable and you can escape from it. In this case, there's no vulnerabilities because there are no files that have anything like that. Scrolling down, we can follow down to capabilities. Now, capabilities are quite an uncommon one found on machines. I personally have only found it on 1 or 2 in my past. However, it's obviously worth following the checklist. If we go ahead and run this, that won't work because it's using absolute paths. We go ahead and change it to that. We can see here that we have Python 3.8 with the cap set UID flag set. What that means basically is that you can set the UID when you execute this. Now, what you can do in Python is you can say, hey, I want you to set a certain ID when you run this Python script, and in this case, we can set ID to 0. If I do ID now, we get a 1001. If I do ID root, we have a UID of 0. So if we set that to 0, then what we can do is we can then effectively run it as root. I'm not going to go ahead and type that all out because there are easier ways to do it. I can use what you call Python in GTFO bins. Basically what this will do is it will say, right, if you can run Python in some kind of context, for example a reverse shell or a file upload or whatever, then you may be able to escalate to somewhere, whether it's just a simple shell or a root shell. That depends. In my case, there's the very last entry refers to capabilities, saying if the binary has Linux cap set UID capability, or it's executed by another binary with the capability set, it can be used as a backdoor to maintain privileged access by manipulating its own process ID. In this case, we can basically just copy this command. We can go ahead and run it down here, go ahead and minimize this. In our case, we used Python 3.8 here, so we have to change that to be the same. We have to make sure that things line up. Go ahead and set 3.8 here. We hit enter on here, and boom, we are root. Awesome. So that was a really quick box. Apologies for my voice, I'm a little bit sick, but I'll catch you in the next one. I'm hoping to be uploading videos more frequently. Something of a personal challenge to myself. Cool. Take care. Hope that's helpful. Take care. Bye.